Imagine pausing the world now for a second and noticing every student studying late at night, every entrepreneur building a company, every researcher chasing a discovery, every artist creating something no one has ever seen before. It's millions of people and millions of dreams. Now imagine that we could somehow look into the future. Could we identify who will succeed? Most of us think we know the answer. We look for intelligence, talent, hard work, skill, but reality tells a stranger story. The smartest person in the room is often forgotten, and sometimes someone completely ordinary rises above everyone else. Why? Is success something we earn, or something we predict and could simulate, or something far more random than we'd like to believe? To answer that question, I spent days digging through scientific research, examining decades of data, and even building my own computer simulation. And what I found completely changed the way I think about success. If we want to understand success scientifically, we first need to ask, what causes it? For centuries, people have offered different answers. Some argue that success comes from talent. People are born with different abilities, and the most successful simply have more of them. Others believe that effort matters more. In this view, success belongs to those who persist, practice, and keep going when others quit. A third explanation focuses on opportunity. The right mentor, the right collaborator, or being in the right place at the right time. The more opportunities you encounter, the greater your chances of success. And then there's luck. Many successful people can point to chances encounters, unexpected breaks, or fortunate timing that change their lives. So which explanation is correct? The answer matters because each leads to a different strategy for life. If talent dominates, success is largely determined at birth. If effort dominates, hard work is the answer. If opportunity dominates, environment becomes crucial. And if luck dominates, our understanding of achievement may be incomplete. For decades, researchers have tried to answer this question using data, psychology, economics, and computer simulations. One of the most interesting attempts came in the 2018 when researchers built an artificial world and watched success emerge from scratch. The results were surprising. In 2018, researchers from Italy published a paper titled Talent vs Luck: The Role of Randomness in Success and Failure. Their goal was to explore a question that is difficult to answer using real-world data alone. How much of success can be explained by talent and how much by chance? To investigate this, they built an agent-based model. An agent-based model is a type of computer simulation made up of individual agents that follow simple rules. Each agent starts with different characteristics, interacts with its environment, experiences events, and makes decisions according to predefined rules. By observing thousands of these agents over time, researchers can study how small individual differences accumulate and produce large-scale patterns. In this research, there were 1,000 agents. Each agent was assigned a level of talent represented by a number between 0 and 1. Talent was distributed according to a normal distribution, with most agents having average talent and relatively few having very high or very low talent. At the beginning of the simulation, every agent started with the same amount of capital, 10 units. They simulated a 40 years life for these agents, with time advancing in 6 months intervals. During this period, agents were exposed to random events. Some events were lucky, others were unlucky. These events moved randomly through the simulated environment. Whenever a lucky event encountered an agent, that agent had a chance to benefit from it. Specifically, the agent's capital doubled with a probability equal to their talent level. This means that talent mattered. More talented agents were more likely to take advantage of a lucky opportunity. If an unlucky event encountered an agent, that agent's capital was cut in half. Unlike lucky events, this effect does not depend on talent. As the simulation progressed, agents accumulated gain and losses from these random encounters. After running the simulation for 40 simulated years, the researchers examined the distribution of success. The first result was familiar. Success was highly unequal. A small number of agents accumulated a large share of the total capital, while most agents ended up with much less. This pattern resembled the unequal distribution of wealth and success observed in the real world, but the second result was more surprising. The most successful agents were generally not the most talented. Instead, they tended to have talent levels just a little bit above average. So the agents with the highest talent rarely become the most successful individuals in the simulation. The agents who achieved the greatest success were typically those who combined reasonable talent with a particularly favorable sequence of lucky events. Like this agent with talent level of 0.6 who faced a lot of lucky events over the 40 years. In contrast, many highly talented agents, like this one with a talent level of 0.74, which is higher than the previous one, actually lost because they encountered fewer lucky opportunities and experienced more unlucky events. The simulation did not show that talent was irrelevant. Talent clearly mattered because it affects the agent's ability to benefit from lucky events. However, talent alone was not enough to explain who ended up at the top. The researchers concluded that chance played a substantial role in determining the final distribution of success. Their finding challenged a common assumption. If the most successful people are not necessarily the most talented, then observing success alone may not tell us much about ability as we often think. What's particularly interesting is that this conclusion is not limited to a single study. Go to Elicit, enter the research topic yourself, and see what the literature says. When I searched for research related to success, opportunity, consistency, and luck, a common theme kept appearing. Talent matters, but talent alone is rarely enough. Across many studies, success was consistently linked not only to skill and effort, but also to factors such as timing, opportunities, social networks, exposure to favorable circumstances, and simple randomness. Of course, this doesn't mean success is purely random. The simulation itself showed that talent influences how effectively people can capitalize on opportunities when they arise. But it does suggest that many outcomes we attribute entirely to merit may also depend on circumstances that are outside of an individual's control. And that raises an important question. If luck influences success so strongly, is there anything we can do about it? When you look at this research, the talent vs luck experiment seems to lead you to a discouraging conclusion. If success depends heavily on random opportunities, then perhaps achievement is nothing more than a lottery. Perhaps some people simply encounter more lucky events than others. However, before accepting that conclusion, it is worth examining a concept in sociology known as the Matthew effect. The term was introduced by sociologist Robert K. Merton in his 1968 paper, The Matthew Effect in Science. Merton observed that well-known scientists often received more recognition for their work than lesser-known researchers, even when their contributions were similar. In science, researchers who receive recognition for their work often become more visible within the field. Greater visibility can lead to more citations, collaborations, invitations, and funding opportunities. As a result, early recognition may contribute to significant future advantages. This process is often described as cumulative advantage. The idea was later connected to mathematical models of how advantages can accumulate over time. One influential contribution came from a British physicist called Derek, who studied citation networks in academic papers and proposed mechanisms through which already well-cited papers become more likely to receive additional citations. Similar patterns have been studied outside academia. In 1998, two physicists coined a name for a network model known as preferential attachment. They used the model to show that in some growing networks, nodes that already have many connections are more likely to gain new ones. This mechanism can produce highly unequal distributions of connections. Preferential attachment has been used to help explain why some websites attract far more links than others. Importantly, the model does not assume that the most connected nodes are necessarily the highest quality. What makes this especially relevant is that researchers have observed similar dynamics in simulation of success. In the 2018 Talent vs Luck study, success did not simply depend on talent or on isolated lucky events. When a talented individual encountered a lucky opportunity, that opportunity increased their resources, making it easier to benefit from future opportunities as well. A small stroke of luck early in life could produce disproportionately large differences decades later. In effect, the simulation combined randomness with a Matthew effect-like process. Luck created the initial advantage, and cumulative advantage helped amplify it. This brings us back to an important practical question. If early opportunities can create future opportunities, then the beginning of a journey may matter more than we intuitively expect. Many entrepreneurs, athletes, artists, and researchers describe working extraordinarily hard during the early stage of their careers, including me working on this channel actually. The reason is not necessarily that success always requires maximum effort forever. Rather, the goal is often to create the first opportunity, like the first customer, the first publication, the first audience, the first breakthrough, the first piece of evidence that something is working. The same principle appears in many areas of life. In fact, this channel is an example of that idea as well. At the time of recording, the channel now has 126 subscribers. It has taken 4 months to reach the number, and growth has often felt slow. But if cumulative advantage is real, then growth does not necessarily remain slow forever. So if you're watching this video in the future, I'd love to know what happened. Leave a comment and tell me how many subscribers the channel has when you're watching. In a way, this channel is also part of the experiment. Say you got lucky. After years of effort, you finally experienced a small win, a signal that maybe, just maybe, you're on the right path. Now the real question becomes, how long do you keep going? Research across multiple domains show that major achievements are rarely immediate. One of the most influential studies on long-term success is Angela's work on grit, in a research titled Grit, Perseverance and Passion for Long-Term Goals. In this study, grit, defined as sustained effort and passion towards long-term goals, was shown to predict success across multiple domains, like education, military training, and competitive performance. Interestingly, grit was not strongly correlated with IQ, suggesting that success is not determined by talent alone but by sustained application of effort over time. The authors also connected their findings to earlier research on expertise development, reviewing the lives of figures such as Darwin, Einstein. Like the researcher Howe in 1999, his book Genius Explained argued that exceptional achievement is not simply the result of superior intelligence, but of sustained perseverance. Similarly, Erickson and Charnas in 1994, in their extensive work on expertise, found that in fields like chess, sports, music, and the arts, it typically takes over 10 years of deliberate practice to reach expert levels, and often closer to 20 years to achieve world-class performance. Their conclusion was clear. Innate ability plays a role, but long-term engagement in deliberate practice and the capability to sustain it is far more decisive. In other words, the timescale of meaningful achievement is much longer than we intuitively expect. The ABM model we mentioned earlier showed this pattern as well. Agents gradually build knowledge, and breakthroughs occur when accumulated information can be recombined later. Across these studies, a consistent structure emerges. Progress is not linear. Instead, systems that involve learning, knowledge, accumulation, and innovation tend to exhibit delayed returns. I would like to understand this delay as a form of investment. Time spent learning, experimenting, and refining ideas increases an individual's capacity to generate valuable outcomes, but this increase is not immediately observable in performance metrics. Historical examples illustrate this dynamics. Like Darwin spent over 2 decades collecting data and refining his theory before publishing on The Origin of Species book. Albert Einstein's in his paper in the 90s papers were the result of years of prior work on foundational problems in physics. I remember the video of Richard Feynman I would like to share in this context.
You asked me if an ordinary person, by studying hard, would get to be able to imagine these things like I imagine. Of course, I was an ordinary person who studied hard. There's no miracle people. It just happens they got interested in this thing and they learned all this stuff. They're just people. There's no talent, a special miracle ability to understand quantum mechanics or a miracle ability to imagine electromagnetic fields that comes without practice and reading and learning and study. So if you say you take an ordinary person who's willing to devote a great deal of time and study and work and thinking and mathematics and time, then he's become a scientist.
This delayed return structure is often described as the J-curve. In the early phase, performance appears flat or may even decline. This may occur because resources are being allocated toward learning, restriction, and experimentation rather than immediate output. Brynjolfsson and colleagues have documented this effect in organizations adopting new technologies. For example, cash output frequently decreases in the short term due to the costs of implementation, training, and system reorganization. Only after these adjustments are completed do measurable gains appear. Formally, this reflects a transition between 2 phases. Phase 1 is the accumulation phase. Resources are invested in building the capabilities. The second phase is exploitation phase. where accumulated capabilities begin to generate returns. If agents or individuals evaluate progress based only on short-term outcomes, and that may be just months, they may abandon strategies that would have produced long-term gains. I will come to this in the simulation I will present to you shortly. Given these dynamics, persistence is not inherently valuable on its own. Its role is structural. It allows the accumulation phase to continue long enough for capabilities to reach a level where opportunities can be effectively exploited. Time is therefore not just a background variable, it is a necessary condition for these processes to unfold. To examine how these components interact under controlled condition, I built a simulation incorporating talent, opportunity, and consistency over time. So let's jump to it. Here is the agent model algorithm we're going to talk about. The algorithm basically shows the talent as a variable versus success in one plot, and the second plot is consistency with success, and the third plot is just generally the distribution of success. We have 4 variables here that is going to be included inside of the algorithm. The first is the number of agents. So in the simulation, the agents are from a range from 100 to 20,000. And we have also the years as a variable we can change. So we can see at the very beginning of the simulation what happens, and when we increase it, what will happen. We have also the opportunity rate. So generally, if you increase the opportunity, you can see better results and vice versa. Well, there is also the quit threshold, which is a variable that I said previously in the video I'm going to talk about. So here are the 4 variables that we have that we just talked about. The talent and consistency are randomly distributed over the population. We can see that knowledge at the very beginning is 0, and success and energy are defined to be 1 at the very beginning of the simulation. These 4 variables will change across the simulation. We can see that the period in which our simulation change is in months. We can see how the knowledge and energy and etc. are specified. Knowledge, for example, depends on talent and consistency. There are a lot of variables. For example, here I can like change maybe to give more credit to the knowledge, maybe making this 0.1 or 0.2 and see what changed. There is also the energy, which is like a function of consistency. There's also this opportunity that is randomly distributed. There is the capturing probability, and that is a function that depends on talent, partially on consistency, partially on knowledge. So I can kind of change the weights of each one of them. If I want a world where talent matters more, I can make this maybe 0.5 or whatever, but I just made it all the same weight. This is my world. So let's talk about the results. I actually don't know where to begin because it's kind of amazing. Success is on the y-axis, and talent, which we define from 0 to 1, is on the x-axis. So we can see here, like when the talent increases, you can see like generally there's kind of a linear pattern where when you increase the talent, there is an increase in success. But the thing is, we have also witnessed this in the simulation at the very beginning of the video, that the most successful people are actually kind of a little bit above the average. You can also notice some really kind of below average people also succeeding. Like there's this one with a talent level of 0.4. You can see actually the most successful one here with the 400 points having a talent level of 0.8, which is like not the largest one. When we look at the consistency of success, you can see clearly it is linear distributed. So whatever you're more consistent, it's like your success level is being accumulated linearly with that. So the most consistent people definitely, like you can see when you have a consistency of 1, there is more than maybe 90.9% of people getting high points. But you can see those 2 are kind of unfortunate. But generally, there is a linear pattern. The more consistent you are, the more accumulation of success you can gather. And you can see generally this success distribution. This is the success level, so the points we're getting. Maybe this is the money, or I don't know, followers on YouTube. There is a percentage of people getting 0. You can see it also here at the very bottom, of people getting no results if they have talent or if they have consistency, which is kind of a bad thing in the simulation. So let's see when we change these variables what happened. We can see when we change the number of agents, for example, what happens. It is kind of the same, the very same results, but condensed. Let's look at the years, like let's make it 0. We said that at the very beginning, people are all equally having a success level of 1. When we increase it, you can see like there is a distribution that is happening. I found the rest two are very interesting. This is the opportunity rate. I'm leaving it at 0.1, which is like 10% of getting an opportunity for each one. So let's decrease it. This is drastic. You can see the majority of people actually getting kind of 0 here, so it's kind of skewed towards failure. When we increase it, however, maybe like I've noticed, if we increase it only to 1%, the opportunity rate, if you increase it very little bit, you can see drastic changes in the results. Kind of having an exponential, like success having an exponential relationship with opportunity. When you increase that, you can see the same behavior. And we're kind of getting a normal distribution rather than a distribution that is skewed more towards 0. And this is because the opportunity is getting really high. Here we made the quitting threshold really low, but let's see if we make it to the maximum. You can see a lot of agents has dropped to the 0%. You can see this appearing here. So the quitting level actually is correlated with this bar here. So this is the threshold, like everybody starts at 1. If you continue doing whatever you're doing and you dropped below this threshold, you will stop and like consider yourself a failure and stuff. So whenever you decrease this, whenever you like, let's make it 0. When you make the quitting threshold 0, literally like no one is quitting, you can see like the disappearance of people that we noticed throughout the simulation. You can see the disappearance of this bar. So this is amazing. This is like really amazing and really real. Honestly, this video changed my view of success a lot. If I had to summarize success in a single plot, it would look something like this. At the moment you're watching this video, you're somewhere on your own curve. Maybe things are moving slowly. Maybe progress feels invisible. Maybe it feels like nothing is happening at all. If the ideas in this video are correct, that doesn't necessarily mean you're failing. It may simply mean that you're still in the flat part of the curve, because growth is rarely linear. For long periods of time, nothing dramatic seems to happen. Then sometimes things change quickly. But those moments are not random. They're built on everything that came before. Talent does not guarantee success. Effort alone does not guarantee success. Even luck by itself doesn't. What truly shifts the outcome is experience, the accumulation of knowledge, the refinement of skills, the lessons learned from failure, the quiet repeated practice that no one sees. All of these shapes your ability to recognize the act when opportunities appear. So the real question is not whether success is certain, is whether you're willing to keep building experience long enough for your abilities to compound. And maybe years from now, you'll come back to this moment and realize you weren't waiting for success, you were building it all along. Because if you are in the process, if you're learning, practicing, and improving, then, in a very real sense, you're already succeeding, and you're closer than you think.